What's up, guys? Can all hear Bulls on Wall Street? Holy hot heat in the markets. Not much to say about it. You know, we had some news in the morning, and then there was some chip news too with Taiwan Semiconductor and ASML, and we had a couple earnings plays, and boom, perfect storm of awesomeness took off. Had a small gap in the market, and then it was just off to the races. Really not much else you can say about that. Like, it's, we're at all-time highs. We actually ran right at the top of the Bollinger Band. Dude, hot is hot sometimes, and, rather than overthinking it, we got to respect the price action. But we had kind of a perfect storm of stuff happening today, and that really put the juice on the markets. When you had the chip news, then you had some, other stuff going on the economic front, and you had even TLT going. We had really just like that kind of that hurricane of goodness, and that really led for some amazing heat, right? You had NVDA, of course, leading the way, up to 1230s now after hours, but it wasn't just NVIDIA, man. MU took off. Taiwan Semiconductor, which never really moves. It's a huge company. It always been historically a slower mover, more of a trender grinder. And just fantastic, right? Fantastic action. And so what can we say, man? We have volume pops now. The question becomes for tomorrow, and we see this a lot. When you get a trend day in the QQQs, guys, all right? So when you get a trend day in the QQQs, oftentimes the next day you get a chop fest at the open for the first hour, sometimes the whole day. You get what's called an inside day, right, where you just rest off. And that could be a possibility. So be mindful. Like, it looks like we had our first big day, but the market actually bottomed out over here and is up 20 points, right, in the last, handful of days. And so, yes, a lot of it was done on gaps. And so, it doesn't feel like that. But today we trended even after the gap. So it is what it is, dude. Hot is hot. Heat is heat, and just be mindful of that. You can see here in the SPY, we're breaking out here too. Now we're on day 4 of the move here, so we got to be careful. Like, if we gap up tomorrow, probably it's going to be a chop fest. They'll fade the gap, and then, and then they might rebuy it. But you may just kind of chop around in here because they look at the location, right? So, moral of the story: if we have a weak open, I think that we're going to try to go long the markets, and do what we do. If we have a huge gap up, then we have to be tricky. We may have to sit out the open and let the ranges really develop, as we'll be outside the upper Bollinger Band, or, we will probably have to take a quick counter trend, trade to kind of fill the gap, and then, we'll see what happens once we see where the levels are that we hold. I don't believe we're in for like some big dusting or anything like that, because we just had a nice 4-day pullback. But this market, out of so many markets I've seen, but this market seems to go from oversold to overbought really, really fast. Like, you'll be oversold, and then boom, before you know it, and you really get your, nuts on the table, you're already extended. And so we got to be a little bit careful. But let's take a look at just the watch list. I think that there's some good stuff happening. There's some good stuff happening. We just we got to nail the entries a little bit, because one thing that I'm like super cognizant about is, like, this has happened to me so many times. After a big trend day, you end up with, oftentimes these kind of choppiness, and, you miss a lot of this because you don't think it's going to trend all day, and then it does. And then the next day you want it to do that, but you end up with an inside day or something along that end. So just kind of be mindful of that, as we go through. Now, let's take a look at the watch list here. Look, this NVIDIA is starting to get a little bit long in the tooth here. Obviously, it was just, $1,100 a couple days ago up to 90 EMA. I don't think it's a short yet, but like, if we say had a gap up or some big run to like 1,300, 1,350 or something like that right before the split, then I think it sets up the short. Probably it's either the day of the split or right before, where, you ramp into it and then you get the rug pull. That's usually how it goes. A little bit of sell the news event. So otherwise, if you get a weak open on this, it's a no touch. It's too overbought now to even trade to the long side, not extended enough to the short side. On the other side, we do got good levels here at MU that we can, trade. If we get a weak open, we can go red to green on this. But see, my worry is, right, we're kind of at the top of the Bollinger Bands on some of these. And so we do got to open those up a little bit. I think Qualcomm has a little bit more room. It's a little bit more of a grinder, but you still got a little bit more room. A nice little pattern over there. Taiwan Semiconductor obviously broke out of this base that's been going since March. And so really any dips on this, we want to hit this, but we can't chase a gap up due to this location. So just be careful on that. That's the big thing, is we just don't want to chase the gap up on that. Now look, we've got MU, we've got Qualcomm, and this SMTC has earnings out after hours here. And I think this one could have a chance. Last time it, kind of started to move, it really ended up going up like 50, 75% in a handful of days. This thing has got some room to go. It's only a $2 billion company. It's still in the semiconductor space. We can roll in with something like that. Now, on the other side of things, look, I thought the interesting thing was there were some mid caps that were starting to pop up today. And I think we want to kind of keep mind of this. Reddit came out and had a really, really nice trend. You can just see it just kind of, following just all the EMAs, man. It's just a Butamus Maximus Murilius at that point. Obviously, this thing is probably a huge turd. And it does trade a little bit thin, so you do want to watch your size. Like, this is not something you go like thousands of shares on, because it only does 3 million shares. You want to be probably about a half size compared to like something like an MU, which has like no spread and is a little bit more of a grinder. You can put more size in it. Now, there's some other mid caps that are popping up that I want to kind of put on the list here. I think this UPST is probably, I want to get a couple of these mid cap type of names. Compared to a firm, I think UPST's got a little bit more room to go, right? So I think that's like, out of these kind of names, I want to find a couple of these. I'm watching this Squarespace too at the 200-day moving average. See if a couple of these kind of mid caps get picked up, because we need some of these to go. Now let's take a look at some of the solars here, because they're still flagging out here. You've got a $15 breakout on run, 15 and some change. I think that's got a good spot. You would see right here about 15.13. Let's add that one. This ENPH has been a good trader. I think this one, is ready to party. Any week open, red to green on this bad boy. We want to take it, right? We want to take it. Now, the crypto stocks did have a decent day. We didn't get a crazy move because, old Kerrisdale Capital came in with the hit piece on the miners, and so they dumped off a little bit at the open. We got a really nice short on this Mara at the open. Now, the problem was I didn't reverse it, right? And we got to always be ready to reverse. But I think it's actually bullish that they got the hit piece, and then they reversed. You can't ask for much more than that. The hit piece was actually on Riot, and it completely reversed too. And so I think that's probably pretty bullish action for the miners. And so let's keep a couple of these bad boys on, whether it's Hive. I think Hive, you got old Mara Nation over here. You got the Wolf Nation. So, these are all looking really good. One thing, if you don't mind something a little bit more expensive, you probably have to do the calls on it. This AVGO is, that's hotter than the goose's caboose right there, right? You got, it topped out on March 1st. We're coming into June, right? Nice quarter of just hanging out. Dude, that's looking pretty good. TTD, great day. I was, telling everybody about this yesterday. More of a swing setup because it lacks a little liquidity. But then the liquidity came in, and at the open it had none, so I didn't want to take it. I thought it was maybe more of a swinger, like an IRA type of trade. But it's looking like it's got enough volume, and you got a sweet spot here now. Let's and some room to go. Let's keep an eye on that bad boy. Like we've got some stuff here. Nova 7% day. Like this is where we want to go with this. Like, let's have semiconductors. We got some Bitcoin miners, and then we've got a whole host of these kind of tech stocks. that are going. And as 2 earnings plays, right? You got second day on crowd, dude. This is just the picture perfect quick pullback buy, right? Gap up, pull back into the 9 EMA. I think we want to, watch this SMTC for a little fun bags tomorrow. Lulu has earnings out too, but it's opening up in a weird location. I'm not sure exactly what I think on this one. Number one, it's just got always a monster cock spread on it. It's a tough trader. It really is. So I stick with, some of the other ones. The vaccine stocks were going today too, based on some bird flu, I guess. I don't know. But the setup, we had this on the blog yesterday. Guys, remember this setup. This is called the inside day setup. When you get a big run and you get this narrow range day, and then boom, you pop out of that range, like you end up with some good Butamus Maximus play. So I think, if this one's got a weak open, we can give it a little bit of a whirl. You can see mRNA pulled back into the 20 SMA, and now you're starting to really round out here. So we've got this is a really nice looking chart too, right? So both of those I think can go. This Coors has got a little flag developing too. So I think we can add that one too. So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. We got cryptos. I want you to add some mid caps like UPST. Let's look for a weak open on semiconductors. We're going to leave NVDA alone unless it has a big gap up and gets closer to the 1300-ish mark. Otherwise, we'll play the proxies. I don't want to get all up in that one, all right? I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East.